Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz was a German philosopher, inventor and mathematician laid the foundations for the modern-day calculator and computer. Leibniz was born on July 1, 1646 in Leipzig and lived to be 70 years old, and his birthday has been celebrated by a Google Doodle. Alamy Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz made the foundations for the modern-day computer. Who is Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz? Leibniz was one of the most brilliant minds of his age and became one of the most prolific inventors in the field of mechanical calculators, building on Pacal's calculator, and he was the first to describe a pinwheel calculator in 1685. He designed the Leibniz wheel, used in the arithmometer, the first mass-produced mechanical calculator. Leibniz also refined the binary number system, the foundation of virtually all modern-day computers. He wrote works on philosophy, politics, law, ethics, theology, history, and philology. Archimedes, a mathematician in ancient Greece, first came up with an algorithm to calculate pi around 250 BC with the formula refined and improved by mathematicians in China and India. Leibniz is credited as stating the first modern formula for pi.His parents were Friedrich Leibniz and Catharina Schmuck. He wrote his doctorate at the Leipzig University before enrolling at the University of Altdorf, and passed his doctorate in law in November 1666. Despite his brilliant mind, he spent his final years cut out of the intellectual world after John Keill accused him of plagiarizing Isaac Newton's work on calculus. Google is honoring the German mathematician and philosopher with a Google Doodle, even though he was a member of both the Royal Society and the Berlin Academy of Sciences. Neither body bothered to honor his death in 1716. His grave went unmarked for more than 50 years. More Google Doodles doodling for the dads. How Google is commemorating Father's Day 2018 with a colorful doodle. Picture Perfect World Cup kicks off with Google Doodle showcasing cultures of the 32 teams. Larry Brazier Michelin starred chef Eugénie Brazier marked with Google Doodle. Know your history. Google is celebrating garden gnomes with a special doodle. Medical Pioneer Drive Virginia Apgar celebrated by Google Doodle. Why is she being marked? What is a Google Doodle? In 1998, the search engine founders Larry and Sergey drew a stick figure behind the second O of Google as a message to that they were out of office at the Burning Man festival, and with that, Google Doodles were born. The company decided that they should decorate the logo to mark cultural moments, and it soon became clear that users really enjoyed the change to the Google homepage. In that same year, a turkey was added to Thanksgiving, and 2 pumpkins appeared as the O's for Halloween the following year. Now, there is a full team of doodlers, illustrators, graphic designers, animators, and classically trained artists who help create what you see on those days. Among the doodles published in 2018 were ones commemorating cartographer Abraham Ortelius, Egyptian actor Omar Sharif, and St. Patrick's Day. Earlier in the year, the search giants celebrated the Paralympics in 2018 in Pyeongchang with an animated design celebrating each of the sports the Winter Paralympians will compete in. Sunday's Google Doodle celebrates mathematician Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. Sunday's Google Doodle celebrates the 372nd birthday of mathematician and philosopher Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. He was born near the end of the 30 Years' War, into a world very different from today's, but his work helped lay the foundation for the computer or smartphone on which you're reading this article. Working independently but at around the same time as Isaac Newton, Leibniz developed differential calculus, a type of mathematics used to calculate rates of change, and integral calculus, a type of mathematics used to calculate things like area and volume. Because Leibniz and Newton were both members of the Royal Society in London, it's likely they would have heard of each other's work, even though they weren't collaborating. Leibniz was the first to publish, in 1684. Newton followed 9 years later in 1693. But a few years later, the Royal Society, with Newton as its newly installed president, accused Leibniz of plagiarizing Newton's work. The two mathematicians had used different ways of writing calculus down, however, and Leibniz's version is still used today, so in a way, he had the last word as well as the first. Leibniz also developed the binary system, whose notation of zeros and ones is the basis of modern computer languages. His book, Explication de l'arithmétique binaire, credited the ancient Chinese divination manual, the I Ching, with inspiring the binary system of zeros and ones, since the I Ching's hexagrams use a very similar notation to record numbers. In an age of European ethnocentrism, Leibniz still recognized China's long-standing mathematical advancement. He also drew on the work of European mathematicians who had already invented their own systems of binary notation, but he refined and simplified those systems into the modern form of binary. And he wrote about logical properties that would be very familiar to modern information theorists and computer programmers, even if it's written in ink on parchment, as Sunday's Google Doodle depicts. Google Doodle, who is Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz? What does the doodle mean? Today's Google Doodle celebrates the birth date of German polymath and philosopher Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. So who was he? Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz was born on July 1, 1646, in Leipzig, Germany, toward the end of the devastating 30 Years' War. His father, a professor of moral philosophy, died when he was 6 years old, and he was raised by his mother. After his father's death, Leibniz inherited his extensive library, which is where his ideas began to take shape. His philosophical writings consist mainly of journal articles, manuscripts published long after his death, and many letters to many correspondents. Through his life, Leibniz's most notable accomplishment is considered to be his conception of the ideas of differential and integral calculus independently and simultaneously with Isaac Newton's similar conceptions. In 1676, Isaac Newton accused him of having seen his unpublished work on calculus. There was alleged to be evidence to prove that Leibniz stole calculus from Newton. Mathematicians have come to favor Leibniz's notation as the conventional expression of calculus, while Newton's became unused. Leibniz's later years were plagued by these accusations of plagiarism, a period known as the calculus priori dispute. By the time of his death in Hanover 1716, aged 70, he had fallen out of favor in society, including amongst British royalty, with whom he has ties. Even though Leibniz was a life member of the Royal Society and the Berlin Academy of Sciences, neither organization saw fit to honor his death. His grave went unmarked for more than 50 years. Historians of mathematics writing since 1900 or so have tended to acquit Leibniz, pointing to important differences between Leibniz's and Newton's versions of calculus. In 1900, British philosopher Bertrand Russell published a critical study of Leibniz's metaphysics, making his ideas respectable to a modern audience. In 1985, it seemed that Leibniz had finally redeemed himself when the German government created the Leibniz Prize, offering an annual award euros for experimental and theoretical projects. What does the doodle mean? Today, Leibniz can be seen all around us. He refined the binary number system, which is the foundation of virtually all digital computers. Today's Google Doodle is written in binary code. It says, simply, Google. It seems a fitting tribute to Leibniz on his 372nd birthday.